Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, what in the world can we do with this rock? I have no recollection where this rock came from. I just know that it's been in the garden, back and forth, different parts of the yard, for the last several years. It is a very heavy rock. Maybe it's a meteorite, something that fell from the sky. Super big, super textured. And I want to put a tree or trees with a little root over rock. We're in the third week of January, and the polar vortex, I think, is coming to an end. Happy last polar vortex day, everybody. 5 below zero in the Twin Cities metro area of Minnesota, but what a stretch. But take a look at the next 5-6 day forecast for my area. 30s from like Monday or Tuesday all the way until the first couple of days into February rather. You know, it seems our weather patterns have been like that for the last couple of years. We're either up or we're down, and we don't seem to have this kind of steady up and then steady down over the seasons. It's just crazy. Hotter than normal, then colder than normal, then more rain than normal. We haven't gotten hardly any snow. So the star of today's show is going to be this rock. Let me give you a 360 of this beast. And here are my hands placed on this rock. And it is heavy. That's probably 30 plus pounds. Could be 35 or 40 pounds. Come back over here to this side. We have a nice flat side here. I don't know if that'll be the back or if we'll flip it over. Got this nice section of rock that slants down here. Roots could come down in here. Yeah, we're gonna put a root over rock planting today. That is the goal. And I gotta see if I have the right trees for this. Hint, hint, I do, I think. From this side, really cool structure there. Look at that. Look at the gouges and the texture of this rock. Look at this crack right here, everybody. What a great place to stuff a root in there and have that grow down. So do I have a tree sit right there and have root come this way, back around here and back here? There's so many possibilities with this rock. So I'm super excited about this project today. Not only am I excited about this rock, which we're going to tackle in just a moment, this is a great time of year because January is coming to an end. This polar vortex is coming to an end. And the best part of this time of year is that, well, of course, spring is just around the corner, but the light in the daytime is getting longer now every single day. Now, I went to the handy dandy internet and look what I found. I found the sunrise and sunset times for 2024 in my neck of the woods. So in January, on the first of the new year, 4:42 was our sunset here in Minnesota around the metro area. And tonight, the sun is going to set at 5:04. That's ridiculously crazy. 5:04 now, which means it's not going to be dark till after 5:30. And by the end of this month, it's going to be setting at 5:19, which is going to stretch that light time, that dusk, until all pushing towards 5:45, 6 o'clock. This is fantastic. So for me, in the world of bonsai, we've made it over the hump. We're there. This is typically the coldest week in Minnesota, and boy did we have it this year with the polar vortex. But now, as we see the sun that's starting to go over the PSGF and warm up that, it just warms me up knowing that the light's going to be more, we're going to have more warmth and growing potential in the PSGF. What a great thing. So I time-lapsed this, as you can see, and I got some images from my kitchen window out to the PSGF as today's sunshine rose over my neighbor's house and then over the trees. Now, the nice thing about extra sun and the angle of the sun going up just a little bit higher, my window before was about 9:15-ish until about 1:15-ish or so. But now when the sun, if it gets just a couple more degrees higher in the sky, well, that's going to mean longer sun later in the afternoon. So I might get that sun not much earlier because my neighbor's house is in the way, but so maybe that 9-ish time frame again. And then it's going to go maybe till 2 or 3 o'clock above the tree line because again, there's still no leaves on the trees. And so I'm just going to have more sunshine. So I am very, very excited. Back with my rock. What am I going to do with this rock and a tree? So I have been thinking about this rock for so many months and really a couple of years. It's been around for a while. And I said, I've got to put some trees over that. I got to put a root over rock over that. But it's such a big rock, right? Most of my root over rocks, like one I actually just did recently with my 2 little ficus. It's a really small tree and it's a small rock. And over the time, it's going to be a bigger tree. And then the rock will probably look dwarfed, for sure. So when I saw this rock this past year, I was thinking of Mr. Nigel Saunders up there in the Bonsai zone and his DeProm temple. So go look at the DeProm temple with Nigel in the trees. Now he's put on his amazing piece of artwork that he built from his hands, from the ground up. Was such an amazing artist, Nigel, you are. And go check out the DeProm temple series with Nigel on the Bonsai zone. But when I saw this rock, I thought, hey, it won't be a DeProm temple, but what a magnificent stone that we can put some trees on. And no matter which way you lay this stone, you could have some really cool creations. So if I just have this in a pot, it'll make more sense with a long kind of shallow, maybe a mica pot that I have, and that works really, really well. And look at this lip right here. And I can put a tree right here on the edge and I can have a root grow this way. And then if it splits off, it can grow this way and down this crack right here. This could be a great thing hugging this tree. Maybe the tree sits right on top, like another art project I've been working on with one of my boxwoods. And then the root kind of swings down here. We have a root that comes down in the cracks here. So we could do that. You turn it around this way, you've got this little decrease down here, going downhill, I should say, descending. The tree could be like right here on the edge again, and you'd have some roots flowing this way and then a big root down here, and then one could come down here. But there's kind of a concave here. I'm not liking that as much. Here's an interesting little divot too here if you put a tree right there. But then it's flat right here. It's like a cliff, right? So that could be kind of a fun view right there of a tree growing on a cliff, and have roots kind of swirling down there at some point, hugging to the rock. But then what if we use that as our bottom because it sits so flat and it's so heavy? And look at that fun peak of a mountain or rock. Or this is what made me think of the DeProm temple. Look at that. What could we do with that? We could have a tree sitting right here and have this big root, the main root coming down right here, and the other one coming down right here. There's a little bit of a decrease right in there where a root can come down, hug this tree, and we can wrap it down underneath there, and a big root down here. There's even a crack up here for a root too if the tree sits right there. What if the tree's on the edge right there, and we have a root that circles down here, comes around here? This could be an interesting place to put a tree. The mica pot that I got from my mother-in-law when she was visiting some friends overseas, she carried it in her luggage back, and I haven't used it yet. And boy, now this is a pretty big rock. This is a pretty big pot. And when soil's up to here, it probably will look okay. I think we could have a really fun showcase tree with some really big roots here. We could even have some bigger trees up here and have a forest around this rock. I'm really going to focus on one tree today, and we'll see how far we get, and we'll see what it looks like and if it's even going to work. But I can't put it in this pot right now. This is too shallow, and if I have roots that only go down to here on a tree, I'm not going to mound up dirt here to keep it alive. So this is the future pot, possibly, for this creation. So we're going to put this aside, and we're going to get one of my boxes and see if that's going to work for this project. Okay, here we have one of my boxes, and this is maybe deep enough where we won't have to build any more higher sides on it. So let's put our rock in there and take a little gander. All right. I might have to put some more screws in here. It's a little loose right there. Look at that. So that covers at least half of the rock. So any tree I put right here, with roots going down, I can have soil right up to here, and we're in good shape. I can put some bigs on the bottom, and I can put some medium or small up to here, and I can even add some sphagnum moss to promote some extra roots to grow in the plant room. Now, part of the reason why I'm doing this now in the 3rd week of January, because I've had this rock in here for a couple of weeks, is now starting this weekend, I'm starting to warm up my plant room here up to the mid to upper 70s for a few hours during the day with more light. So my lights are on for an extra hour or so, and then I've got more heat. And then in February, in another week or two, I'm gonna crank it up a little bit more with a little bit more sun and a little bit more heat, just trying to warm these things up and wake them up. Because then in March, there'll be a chance for me to bring some of my trees out into the PSGF because I think I'll be able to maintain a lot of heat out there. The experiment, of course, continues. But back to the rock, look at that. So we have this in here, it fits really, really nice. We have enough room in here, I think, for roots to grow down any of these areas. There's no roots that are going to be bigger than that, an inch on every side around there. So we just have to figure out how we're going to plant this thing in here, where the tree is going to sit, but I do like this angle best. I want just a tree atop this cliff, and it's going to grow and be majestic, and it's going to have all of these roots eventually exposed almost down to the bottom of the rock. So there's the rock, there is the pot we're going to use. Now we just have to figure out what in the world am I going to put in this thing? While visiting my friends at Ottenbro's just the other day, I stumbled across a couple of trees that I thought, hey, this one could be magical. So let me remind folks that when you go to a nursery store and you find a tree that you like, go, oh yeah, get it. Just don't even hesitate, get it. Now, if it's one that's not priced as cheaply, you didn't get it in the discount section, or it's like, you're hemming and hawing too much, okay, yeah, if you're not comfortable spending the money, then don't do it. But my tip to you, and the tip we tell all the Minnesota Bonsai Society new members, is that if you're shopping at a nursery and you come across something, you get it right, you don't let it go. Because when you come back, there's going to be a few more of me roaming around that nursery in the next days, weeks, months. And if you go back a week or two later, even a couple of days later, it's probably going to be gone. So that was the case for this guy right here. So this is a tiger bark ficus that I found at Ottenbro's, and I fell in love with the tree for one main reason. So as I spin it around, is there something that gives you a little bit of a hint as to why I maybe picked this tree out? Yeah, look at this gem right here. This is like an aerial root from the roots down here that comes up around this branch. I don't even know how that happens. Look at that. And it comes down in there and it splits to two here. It splits two here and it splits to two here. I've got two splits and roots that could come down this entire ledge, possibly right out of the nursery pot. Now there's some other tangled roots in here that are kind of coming up and down, and I have no idea what's down below there. But all of the root structure is right out here. Look at that. So look at back here. It doesn't look like there's anything back here, which could be the back of the tree right next to this ledge right here. The tree could sit something like this, and I can try to wind those roots around. So we're going to dig this out of the pot next. We're going to expose all the roots. We're going to put it next to this rock and just see if we can use it. If we can't use it, I'll have to repot this in another pot, and this will have to wait until that next tree, probably then this summer, because I don't think I'll have more access in the next couple of weeks anyway for this style of tree, unless of course I go shopping. So we're ready to dive right in. We've got the tree out of the pot, and we're going to see what we get to work with. This is going to be exciting because, as I've said many times before, you know, when you get a tree in a nursery pot, or from even someone else that they haven't taken care of for a while, maybe in a nursery pot still, or just in some kind of bonsai pot that's deep, or a growing box, you have no idea what's down below. I have no idea what I'm going to find here, but here's that split down here. Look, there's a split on this one and a split on this one. We're going to have some potential fun roots that go deep down, and hopefully they are all viable, and they're going to do great things for our tree. So let me work on this for a little bit and get this so we can see all the roots. As I continue to get a little bit of the final chunks of dirt out of this part of the tree, right underneath some of these gnarly roots, let me expose to you what we have seen so far after getting rid of all the soil in this pot. Look at that. Look at that. We've got 2 or 3 feet of roots that can all dangle down the cliff of this rock. We're going to cut even half of this off, and we're still going to be able to dangle these down the roots. This is what I was hoping for. Look at all of that right there. Now it's curved this way, which is kind of a bummer. And of course, I'm going to have to straighten all that out. Let's pull this out right here. Let's get it away from this branch. We don't want that branch. There we go. And let's pull. Oh, and it's coming around this way. There we go. And there we go. Oh, this one's wrapped around. There we go. It's wrapped around the back side, but it's coming out loose. There we go. We have this root that splits into two and then goes down and splits into two again. And down here splits into two. We have some amazing roots down here. Look at that. How fun would that be for a great big rock that I just happen to have? Oh yeah, this is heavy. Okay, there we go. All right. Now this is a pretty big tree right out of the gate. So it's kind of going to be big on this rock, and we're going to want it to get real tall and have the tree up a little bit higher. But here we go. If the rock, if it sits kind of right there, or even if it sits on top, we can have some roots going out the back. Can we have this? Oh, can we have it come around this way? So if I can secure that here, there's kind of a ledge there, so I don't know if that's going to work. But there's not much right here for rate. It's funny because let me remind everybody that if we wanted to grow this with a radial root pattern for one tree, look at the radial root pattern right down here. Yeah, we would cut all of these roots off, and this is our tree right here in the future. But I want to grow this tree with these roots on here to go over this rock. So I don't care as much about those radial roots anymore, because that's going to sit maybe right here on this cliff, which means no roots could come out that way on that level. And then these are going to come down here and come down these cracks. Look at that, everybody. Look at that root going down that crack, and it splits right up here. Can it come down here, around down here? Look at that right there. Can we make that come right there? Look at that root structure, everybody. Boom. Comes right down there, and then it splits, and we can take, oh, we got a whole bunch up here, tangled up here. We can take one of these sides and bring it down the right side, and we can take this split right here. Look at that. I can hug that right next to the rock right there, all the way down that rock. Look at that. Look at that, everybody. And this came over the lip right here and comes down this little crevice, and this goes down that crevice. Oh, that's kind of fun, and there's no crisscrossing up here. That works. And then we've got this one right here. We just manipulate that one right there and bring all of these roots right here. We'll trim some up, and we'll bring it down the path of this rock right here. And look at that. That works kind of cool, but the tree's kind of weird. Now it's slanted, but that's not maybe bad either. So there's one possibility for this tree. So I'm very, very excited that this is going to work out. I will use this tree on this rock today, get this in here. So we have to make some muck. We have to get some soil ready. But I've only looked at one option. Let's look at the other option I was thinking about, because I liked this ledge over here. And that's this one right here. But it changes the whole feel of the tree, I think, in the planting. So if we have this tree right on this lip right here, and we have some future roots hugging over there, can this come over? I don't think it's going to work. I think it's too big of a tree. Too big of a tree to do that. You know, we can certainly get this root to lay down in here. That could work. And we can get this root probably to lay down in here. So that can work. And then but we see this great big tree exposed. Where back here, it looks like it's just growing up on this rock right at the tippy top. And we have the illusion of maybe some land back there, but again, we can manipulate that. And all the health of this tree right now, all the roots are going to be down here getting life. And back here, some of these will die off, but we'll get some to grow back down, because these trees are known for aerial roots. We should be able to just send roots down here, and we'll just let these all kind of find their way. And I'll put some muck back here, and so we can have roots that try to go down and cling the level of the rock. Absolutely phenomenal stuff to work with here. This is so fun. I have the rock here that we're going to try to make this root over rock with the tiger bark ficus, but I had to make some muck first. So again, with my muck recipe, I'm using sphagnum moss, and in this case, the stuff that I collected from my very own cabin area. That was nice. So I have the sphagnum moss, and then I have some of the real powdery and super fine akadama leftovers that are just so small and powdery. Put those together with water and get that combination. You're getting your hands dirty. You don't want it too soupy, you don't want it too dry, and you want to be able to almost make like a little snowball, a little muck ball that you could throw at someone. Although as soon as I throw it, it probably would fall apart. But you want it to be a little stringy too. I don't want the real powdery sphagnum moss. I wanted to leave some strips in there of longer pieces so I can cling to these rock crevices that we're going to use. and hold on to this shape. In order to keep this in place, what I'm considering right now is I'm going to wire this in so I can work on the tree, but then we'll maybe take the wire off and see if we can leave it off. So let's go ahead and come right up this rock right here. Actually, let's put it over here so it doesn't mess with the cracks that we want the roots to go into. Okay? And it's going to come right up here. And we'll get the backside over here. Now, this wire is going to come off, so I don't want to scar the trunk. So we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of this guy right here. A little bit of inner tube tire just for this connection of this wire. All right. I don't have my good pliers. I can't find my good pliers right now, so I've got my little handy dandy all-in-one tool. We're going to go ahead and get this thing a little tighter. There we go. So it's time to sort through these roots. Now this root up here could come up this way on the rock if we want to. It's kind of in a different direction though. So this one right here I think I'm going to cut off. Right here, this little guy. Because we've got all these roots over here that we are loving life with. Okay? So we're going to put that one in here, or this one here rather. There we go. That's going to be in here. So I'm just going to kind of take my chopstick and see if I can shove this root right in that rock right there. There I was able to shove it in there. And if I scored a little bit of that root, I scored a little bit of right there, that could maybe be another root that could trail off right here. So right now I see that going right about that path. And when all the roots are in place, we might put a rock right here and hold this in place right there. Or we can just wrap this rock. I think we'll just wrap this one around right here. It kind of cradles this little bump right there. And if I tie this right here with some raffia, that's going to look really, really good. So I know now that I can cut off probably that much root. We're not going to use any more than that over here. We'll leave the rest of that there though in the pot so it can continue to help this grow. All of these roots right here are just going to stay right there, and this will be muck back here. Okay, so let's grab a little bit of my muck. And let's see if we can put a little bit of that in there right now. And with this one right here, I'm just going to cover this root to give that some moisture, and hopefully that'll continue to grow down that crack. We got some muck there with some soil. There's akadama, the sphagnum moss, and we can reveal this root later. We want this to stay in place. And now this muck back here, again, I'll put a little bit of muck up here at the top where this tree is growing right on this rock, and this would be the soil maybe that's collected over time from decay, from fallen leaves, from other birds bringing stuff over, who knows. So we got a nice little muck layer right there. And so we have this main root coming down here, and it's splitting back here, and so now we're going to cover that with muck right there. And so we want that nice and secure in there. Trying to get all those roots in there on that path, right down that rock right there. And we're kind of growing them together right now because we want them to grow together and have a dominant one take over at one point. I will probably trim these down the road when I see where they're growing. And see, now they're dangling right there. That'll be dangling in the pot. So I don't even need any raffia right here to hold this tight. I could put a little here to hold it a little tighter just in case there's some air pockets in there. But we've got some roots in there that are now going to take shape to this rock. Okay, so there's our root here coming up over here. This one's coming down into our crack over here, and then we have this one coming down here, and these two are left to dangle. We'll put these in the pot when we finally put it in the pot, and then in that box rather, and we'll get some roots forming. So these are cut and these are done, ready to go in a box. They're a little bit weak up here as far as you know, ramification. They ramify down here, but if we cut all these off and allow it to ramify maybe up here more, we'll get more growth and we'll be able to cut these off eventually. Here we have this root. Let me show you this root now. This root's coming right over here. It's going to come over this lip of the rock. And look at this zigzag right here. And there's even an indent right here that if I tuck this right there, it kind of zigzags around the rock a little bit if I tuck it in the right way. Look at that. How fun is that zigzag? And that'll come down here. It'll join these other roots, and we will again pick and choose some of these roots to come. I think right now I can get rid of this guy right there to make him less clogging up down here. And then this one right here, we can leave for now. We'll tuck that in there and see if that can cling to the rocks with some muck forcing it down. This is growing back up. Let's cut this off. Let's cut these two off because they're growing back up. There's one back under here. So there we go. We have a nice clean zigzag here with some roots over here. And here's what I'm going to do. Let's see if we can get this one to survive right here. Back up and around right there. Maybe it's going to grow that way with this guy right here. Now this guy has to go underneath this wire, which we can do. There we go. There we go. Put this along that too, and that and this are going to go together and be a root. Look at how fine that is, right? So what we might need a little pressure on is right here. Right there. Okay. So if I get a little sphagnum moss in there and then we put a little rock in there, or I should say muck. Make sure that root's up in that crack. There we go. And we want it below this wire so we can cut the wire off. And again, we're going to follow all these roots down the crack of this rock, which is stunning. Boy, did I make a lot of muck. I do not need all this muck. I wanted to be for sure so I didn't have to make any more in the middle of my designing. But I certainly was giving myself plenty to work with. Now I could keep this wire on too for the first couple months of this planting just so it holds everything in place. And I might do that. Since it's up above everything here, it's relatively tight. I can squeeze it a little bit tighter probably. So here we have this root down here. Now there needed to be a little bit of pressure on that root in there if I remember correctly. So I think I will leave the wire on there, and I'm going to see if I can fit one rock in there. Yeah. To hold that root down to the ground in that crevice as much as we can. There we go. And if I tighten that up, that's going to hold that root down there. So as we pulled back a little bit, I've got the roots here coming out here, this split. We'll just lay those against the rock. This is laying against the rock real nice right there. Look at that. See that little root right there? It can go right down the crevice of that rock. And we'll be in good shape underneath there. Look at that. It stays right there already, but when we get it in the pot, we'll be in good shape. So I'm going to tuck a little bit of bigs down in there first. That's just one small layer of bigs at the very bottom, kind of to keep the smalls from falling through the drain screen. Now the challenge with this is this root right here is popping up, so we want to put that down a little bit as well. And I think with soil alone, we can probably keep that in place. But just to be safe, I think I'd like to put one little string of raffia around that. So let's grab some raffia. And get that down low, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to step over here, and I want this to be down against this rock really, really tight. So I'm just going to make a knot, and we're going to bring this down and tighten it up as best as I can here. And it makes these roots go right up against that rock fairly good. So here we have the root coming this way, the root coming this way, and this raffia is in there. Now, to make it even more secure, I have a couple of extra rocks here that I can just go ahead and put right there like that. And let's see if I can put this one like that. Now, those two rocks are holding those roots on. All the roots go below the rock, so when I fill this now with some small soil, we'll be in really good shape. Now this side was mucked over here, so I can put soil up pretty high on this side. And again, here's the muck on this side. It's coming right there. We want the soil to go up there. Now the only thing else I want to consider is the backside and where this root's going to go. So we're going to put this down here. I might even, I don't know if this rock will sit here and force these rocks down. It probably will, but we're going to try to muck some of that down and continue that process back here. We've separated these roots out. This one can come down here. And we're going to put that muck right there and force that to be there. And the back side is not going to be quite as important as the front, of course, but we do want it to hug. If we ever spin this thing around, we want to make sure people like it from all angles if possible. And I don't know if I can keep that there or not, probably with some raffia or something again tied around the tree. Okay, so let's grab another piece of raffia and get that in place. So I have a rock here that I want to put against here really, really tightly so it'll stay against this tree. So we're going to put this right here and make this super tight right there. Okay, and we're going to wrap this around and get our second knot. Just to hold that in there nice and snug. Okay, we'll get a little more of our muck on the top of the rock here just to secure this part of the tree. This part of the tree, these roots might not last very long on this edge, but we want to encourage them to grow down. So we're going to get some more soil and then make everything come to a good end. Now I am going to squish a little bit more muck down here for those roots to continue growing. I certainly don't want air pockets down there, but if it reaches the soil might dry out faster. So I'm just going to make sure there's some good muck right here. And then I can see some holes in there already, so we're going to make sure that all the rocks are getting down there. And there, we lost a whole inch right there. And we get that nice and tight. That means it's snugging up against that muck on the other side. And to keep this from being too dry on this side, we'll also shove some muck in here. And that muck is going to help it from completely drying out on the inside. It'll help with that and just keep our shapes here. This is going to be a beast of a pot. We added 2 rocks here. We added a rock here to force those roots to be on the tree as much as possible, or on the rock, the roots to be on the rock. We got our muck here that'll water, and it'll hold some of that moisture from down below and let those roots trail down. So this will be the front of this pot. We'll have it in a low mica pot eventually, or something like that. So now we're just going to make a couple of trims on this thing. I don't want to stress it out too much, but we want to see this tree. So we're going to take this right off, and we're going to take this right off. Now we can see the tree a little bit better. Take that one right off, just so we can see the structure of our tree. This one's growing straight up. Let's cut that one off. So there was a chop on this tree right here when it was up straight before, and this was going to become the new leader, but we might want this to become the new leader with the nice movement we have here and have this a primary branch. So we have a lovely little tree here. Let's cut this one shorter as well. Keep the focus now growing that way. I'm going to cut this one and do some directional pruning here. Let's cut this big one down to size a little bit. There we go. This one's getting a little bit big. That's from the big main one. This one's coming out real big. We have a nice smaller branch to the left of it. So if we cut that off, we have this. Here's a little dead nub. This one's kind of clouding up that lower branch right there. This is a nice lower branch with some a little tertiary right there right now, but again, this is going to take a long time to develop into the tree we want it to be. We're going to make this a little bit less out to this left side with some branches that are already starting to move. And we'll just leave it at that for right now. I don't want to mess with this tree too much. I just wanted to see the trunk a little bit better. It is leaning a little bit more forward, but if we put this way, that's not as bad either. If this becomes the front right here, and if this is the front, we're leaning a little bit forward, but we can probably take this branch off eventually and see what it does. I just want to make sure that this is going to stay in a good growth situation. Let me see. There's two branches right next to each other here. Let's go ahead and get rid of this one. Got that one back there growing. This one here, these are kind of close together. As a matter of fact, let's just take this one right out. And we have this and we have this. We've got two trying to grow right here. Let's just keep the one. Here's our latest chop. Let's cut this inside branch off. Okay, now I promise I'm done. I think. We probably should take that one off, shouldn't we? But let's let it recover. As I mentioned earlier in the show, my plant room's going to be in the 70s now, mids to upper 70s from noon until 6. And we're going to have more light, an extra hour of light a day to help all of these tropical plants start to wake up a little bit more. Now I have to be super careful where I keep this guy because it's super heavy and I can't be moving it around a ton. So I'm going to try to find a place in my plant room where this can be nice and secure, and then I'm going to give it a good watering. I think I'll put this in a bucket or a tray so I can use the tray to lift it up. Let's do that now and give it a watering. We have it watered down now. This will be the easy part to water over the rocks. This muck has to kind of form and kind of get into a hard state with all that akadama in there. That akadama fines and the sphagnum moss, and we don't want it to just wash away. That's another reason to have more strands in there and not powdery stuff so it won't wash away as much. So this is the proposed front right about here, and then maybe a little bit more this way. And we have a big crack down the rock where this root will be a major highlight down the road. This root right here already comes down a crack on this side and on this side, and we have a couple roots coming back here, so this will look good from multiple angles. It could even look good like that, but I don't think this cliff is pretty. So we have a very fun design. It'll look completely different in a couple of years because we'll get rid of these rocks. Here's another rock here that we're keeping some roots down. So hey, wow, that was a blast to do. I'm super excited to see where this thing is going to go. As always, continuing the experiment with my trees. Down here in the plant room, and of course eventually in the PSGF. Hey, boy, let's put this one to bed. Take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and you know what? We're going to see you soon on the next one.